his hands and raises them for the huddle on the 10. God, 10 seconds. We're on their 6. Michael Johnson turned around, asked the bench something. And now Green makes him line up on the right in the slot. We have 3 receivers. Tennessee playing what amounts to a 4-4 fake. And there's a touchdown! Touchdown, my God, a touchdown! We threw it to Haynes. We just stumped it with 5 seconds left. My God almighty, did you see what he did? David Green just straightened up, and we snuck the fullback over. Haynes is keeping the ball. Haynes has come running all the way across to the bench. We just dumped it over. It's 26-24. We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face. We dumped it over. David Green brought us flying down the field.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Dogs Down South. It is game week, week 1, Georgia versus Clemson. It is finally here. Excited is an understatement for what I want to say right now. I don't have many words I can say. We are finally at game week. We finally don't have to put together content that is important, don't get me wrong, and it's fun to do, but we actually get to talk real college football. I'm going to bring in some really great people, add Mr. Fish to the stage. What's up, Fish? How are you, man?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Good, brother. And Richman, what's up, man? How are you tonight?
Good, man. Good.
Great to have you guys. It's going to be a fun night on week 1, Georgia versus Clemson. I know all 3 of us could probably say the same thing. We've been waiting on this. We've been talking spring football and bogus news here or there. And, you know, we've been looking at pictures of just literally wanting to see Georgia players doing an athletic thing. If they're running, jumping, doing something to keep motivated. But it's finally here, man. Georgia versus Clemson. We no longer have a countdown. Well, we still do. But we actually get to see some football tomorrow night. Obviously caught some football this past weekend. We picked those games. Fish, kudos to you for picking Georgia Tech over Florida State. That was nuts. That was crazy.
Yes, sir.
We got a lot to talk about with Georgia tonight. So we could have a whole 30 minutes on that spot right there. But we won't, man. Let's hop straight in. So Clemson, man, Clemson. I think it would be only fitting to hear from Mr. Dabo Swinney. He had a little press conference, talk about Georgia a little bit. Let's add Dabo to the stage, and let's just kind of hear a few things that Dabo had to say about Georgia.
Usually you only get opportunities like this in the postseason, in the playoffs, in a national championship. But this just happened to be on our schedule. So it's a great opportunity to play the best team in the country right out of the gate. And that's what they are. If anybody don't think they're the best team in the country, then they probably hadn't paid much attention. These guys are really, really good. Kirby has done a tremendous job down there, and they got a lot of guys back. Starting on the offensive side. I mean, you got a Heisman quarterback. He's a very, very good football player. They've lost 2 games in 3 years, and and part of that is they're they're a very, very physical football team on both sides of the ball. So you got to be able to match that. And then, by nature of scheme, you got to win competitive plays. I think that's a big thing in a game like this. But starting with their quarterback, he's just a very good player. And, the kid he's accurate. He's opportunistic with his legs. He really understands their scheme. They do a great job in really, making you play assignment football with how they formation and motion and mix, the inside zone game with their toss game and their counter game, in multiple ways that they do that with the play actions and screens built into it. And they got dudes that can make plays down the field. But I think Carson is accurate. I think he's a great vertical thrower. So just puts a lot of pressure on you. And then offensive line, there's probably none better in the country. This is a really, really talented group, very experienced, and big strong backs, a lot of skill on the edges. They got a couple guys returning that have had a lot of experience in production in 6 and 86 and 11. He's probably as fast a guy.
So we're going to hop in right there. Obviously, giving you a little clip of Dabo right there. Just want you to hear a few words, kind of what he's saying about Georgia. You can kind of hear it in his voice that he's a little bit, I don't know if it's an intimidation factor. I don't know if it's all that. I think Dabo is just, giving credit where credit's due. He knows, obviously, what he's got coming into Atlanta and his team, and he knows what to expect with Georgia. But real quick, I'll go to you, Fish, first. Like, what's your take on Clemson? I'll give you a direct question. So, as far as Dabo concerns, like, what do you think? What's the thing that you think about Clemson that might pose Georgia the biggest threat on Saturday from Clemson? What's one big area or one big thing you think could cause that?
Well, Dabo sounded like a man who's not sure what to expect from his team. Like, he's not sure exactly what he's got. He's, I don't know if he was tired, if he's had a long day, but there wasn't a lot of energy in what he was saying. Didn't sound very pumped or excited. I mean, Kirby doesn't really either. Sometimes Kirby's a little monotone, but, I don't know. I think Klubnik, if he has a good game running the ball, throws for a couple of touchdowns, then that means that they're in the game and it's a close game, that we're not blowing them out. We're not pulling away, that they're right there with us, So, I think, the quarterback is probably the most important position, but, they're going to live and die with his success, I believe.
Yeah. Richman, what do you think, man? Where do you think Clemson and Dabo kind of pose a threat? What area do you think they pose a threat on Saturday?
Well, I think Dabo was smoothing the water. I think he's getting ready for a big beatdown. But if Georgia's going to have trouble, it's my thinking is it would be the offense sputters, and because their defense is what they're leaning on. So if our offense sputters and their defense shows up, that's going to make it an interesting game. Offense
sputters, defense shows up. Yeah. No, I can agree with both those things. I mean, I think Klubnik presents some – go ahead.
And obviously, like most early games in the season, they're all defensive games anyway because the offenses are sputtering. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, we think we've got a lot of talent, but, are they going to gel and play and put up 40 points? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. We look at impact players. We look at Clemson, what they have coming in. A couple names to remember from Clemson, and we'll kind of do a little brief breakdown of Clemson. Barrett Carter, really, really talented linebacker from Clemson. You'll see his number a lot, flying around the ball. Big defensive tackle, Peter Woods. I know a lot of people are going to say, is this the Clemson D line of old? I've heard a lot of good things about the defensive line. I think it's a strength of theirs on defense. So it's definitely going to be, is it our offensive line? Is it the trenches? We're going to talk, where the game's going to be won later on. Richman, you made a point about this guy. One of the most talented receivers they have, and most interesting names, I would say, tight end Jake Brenningstool, really talented tight end. But you made a comment earlier. You're like, from our vantage point in the past year or so, they haven't used him a lot. I don't know if it's how the offense is built. Obviously, I don't remember the guy's name, but he's from TCU. He actually took the offensive coordinator position job, crazily enough, right after, he couldn't score against Georgia in the national championship. So I don't know how well that's going to bode for Clemson. So been there, seen that, done that. So, and then we got running backs. I've heard good things about the running backs. Phil Maffa, Blake Miller. Maffa is a little bit more used, a little more of a bruiser back. And then obviously Cade Klubnik. Want to make sure before we move on, because I saw a comment already. Welcome everybody on Facebook, on X. We're on X tonight, Twitter. So if you're hopping in from Twitter, YouTube, please go like and follow Dogs Down South on YouTube. Scott Renew, what's up, man? Think the offense is going to be fine. Wondering more about defense on the safeties, but not Malachi. Yeah, good question. We're going to actually hit where the rubber meets the road soon. I agree with that. I think offense is going to be fine, but got to figure out where that game's going to be won as far as offense, defense, and vice versa. But those are a couple names, kind of want to remember some things coming out of Clemson. some of the things I'm hearing, right? And I'll let you kind of chime in on some of these comments. These are kind of media things you're hearing, what people are kind of thinking, but some interesting things. One was Clemson. Clemson seems to believe that Trevor Etienne is definitely not as compatible as Travis Etienne. Not comparable, compatible, any way you want to look at it. Does Clemson just not think he's a difference maker for Georgia? And in the SEC, is there hype around Trevor Etienne? I know the big question, the glooming question, and I already asked you, Richman. I'll ask you, Fish, too. But do we think we see Trevor Etienne in this game? I'll ask you first, Fish. Do you think we see Trevor Etienne?
It just depends on how many healthy backs we got, really, honestly. I don't know. Kirby's not coming out and mentioning it, saying it is obviously, gameplay, strategy. So he's not going to give Dabo something to be ready for or not be ready for. I don't know. He played in the spring game. And,
right.
If he's been taking most of the reps in practice, then, yeah, expect to see him.
Yeah, I agree. We talked a lot about it last week, about what is a suspension anymore? Is it really, you're paying these players NIL money, man. Like, I get they need to learn lessons and we're still raising young men, but I'll be honest with you, man. I've walked those stadium steps many a times in Athens, and I think if you run them enough days in a row, there's some clear discipline going on there because I'm puking my brains out, brother. What about you, Rich, man? You think we see Trevor Etienne?
I don't think we're going to see him unless they absolutely need him. And I don't think we're going to know, is it discipline or, obviously if he doesn't hit the field, we're going to call it discipline. But if we don't need him, I bet he sits out the whole game.
Right. Yeah. I think we agreed. I think we'll see him in pads. I think we'll see him in a jersey and pads. But how Kirby's holding his cards, is it a first and second quarter suspension if we're not running the ball effectively, if we're not, we're not stretching the field, we're not getting enough separation so that Carson can open up that passing game a little bit? Do we see Trevor in there third and fourth quarter and the whole time you thought, oh, it was a first half suspension? Well, no. The whole time it was a game suspension, or the whole time it was never a suspension, right?
And we'll never know. Even if he does sit out the whole game, we'll never know because he's not going to tell us.
Right. Kirby, man. I think Kirby's ex-mafia, to be honest with you, bro.
Dude, he should be a professional poker player.
Dude, he would have so much money. Well, he does have so much money, but anyways, so battle in the trenches. We talked about battle in the trenches. Obviously, Rich, man, you came up around a lot of the trenches, man. You were in those trenches as a high school football player, man. I think this is where the game is going to take a tilt. I think you have a very, very talented offensive line from Georgia. You have depth in that line. But a lot of people are saying, Georgia's offensive line versus Clemson D line, but with Clemson, I think they wanted to be in reverse. I think they want to play this game in reverse because they're going to have the opportunity to win. They're going to want it to be Clemson's O-line versus the rumors of Georgia's defensive line and injuries. But Richman, I'm going to let you take this one because you just talked about this, and I thought you said something that was very crucial about what you saw from Clemson in the spring game. The Clemson wants it like this, but do you think Clemson has the offensive line, even if we're battling injuries, to take on Georgia's defensive front this game?
No, I don't think so. If they play anything like they did in the spring game, they were missing assignments and getting blown apart. And listening to Dabo, and then I listened to another guy who is a Clemson fan. They don't expect those guys to. They're worried. They're not expecting the improvement there. So I really think we'll eat them up. And
you giving a lean on your pick later on? Is that what you're saying?
My pick's gonna be
hard lean left on that one.
I really think. I'm worried about the offense because offenses always seem to sputter in their first game.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to think we're going to win big, but we'll see.
Yeah, interesting take later on. We're going to talk about it. I have some interesting takes on what I think will happen as well. I think we all do. Another thing that was brought to my attention just in reading this week, just doing some studying about what to expect. But we look back at Stetson Bennett, and we've talked a lot about, and it came up a couple of times on a couple of other podcasts about, Stetson Bennett had so much talent around him during those natty years, right? Don't get me wrong, Stetson, he made a lot of plays with his legs, his arm. He was he was elusive. He was slick. He knew the offense well enough. But you look at Beck. So we look at a team last year. One thing that sticks out to me, we look at a team last year, and you look at Beck, his first year as a quarterback, and in my opinion, we talked about that Fish last week. You didn't have Brock Bowers a lot last year. You didn't have Lab McConkey a lot. You had a backfield that you just didn't know if you were going to have Edwards or Milton or Cash, or it was like, hey guys, who needs to take the week off this week? Who's filling in this week?
Yeah.
That's but everybody last year said it, and I've heard it multiple times. Like, Georgia was the best team that didn't get picked to go in the playoffs. Everybody has said it, regardless of that ACC podcast has kind of re-stepped its ways and backed off a little bit and said, look, their cover-up was like, hey, yeah, we picked Alabama against Georgia, and yeah, we think Alabama's going to do big things, but Georgia was the best team to lose that game and probably would have won it all, including beat Alabama again. And then you come into this year, but here's the thing. Carson Beck this year has way more depth at running back. And I know we say that coming off of is ETN suspended, Rod Robinson toe surgery. How many weeks is that? So you look at all these things, but then you see the Nate Fraziers, and then you see the Cashes, and then you see ETN. Where does he get in there? And numerous other backs that are Chauncey Bowen that are fighting for time, and we have not laid eyes on them yet, right? But then you look at the receiving core, and there's so much talent at the wide receiver position that is either gotten better or has come through the portal or has grown up a little bit. And then you see the tight ends. You look at Bowers, you look at Lucky, but then you add Urasek to the play. Is this the year that you look at Carson and go, you didn't give him a lot last year in a full capacity, right? He's starting this game with a loaded deck, man, regardless of suspensions. But that says a lot about this game. And I think that's where you're coming from, Rich, man, I'll let you guys chime in. But I think when you look at Carson, you look at what Stetson had, and you look at what Carson has now, in a year where Carson had to grow up a lot as a starting quarterback his first year, he wasn't given a lot of weapons due to injuries. But now he has it. Talk to me a little bit about that, Rich, man. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think we've got the talent. I think the offense is going to come, and when it gels, I think we're going to be high-powered. But I'm going to go back and say this, and I could be wrong because I'm not the best analyst in the world, but our defense, our interior line play hurt us last year. And if we don't have a dominant defenses are what win championships. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping this year that our defense, we're loaded everywhere, but we're still questioning the interior. What is it going to look like?
Right.
And, I hate to say this, but if our interior doesn't show up, we may end up just like last year. We may win a heap of games, but not win the right one.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I like, Fish, you want to chime in on that before we step into that? I mean, when you look at Stetson, right, that's what we're landing on. When we look at Carson with a loaded deck, you look at the defense and you kind of go, okay, the defense in a lot of ways set us up for a lot of great things last year because we still were limping around on offense a lot. What's the difference maker this year? Beck with a loaded deck, man. What are we looking at with that?
I think Beck has stability more so than he had last year. I think our receivers are more solid, and I think our backfield, we have way more options. And we also, Beck lost Bowers last year and, kind of looked, not lost, but, that was his security blanket. That was his guy. Mm-hmm. This year, if we lose one person, I feel like that's okay because we have a couple of other proven guys behind whoever goes down or gets hurt or whatever. We have more depth this year. Right. We're not just leaning on one guy. We're leaning on 4, 5, 6, 7 guys because we got a couple of backs that are great. We got a couple of receivers. We got 3 tight ends that are probably could start on any team in the SEC. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but Stetson had that defense, his first natty. That was an unbelievable defense. That was a generational defense. That's one of the
Yeah.
best defenses ever. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been hard to lose games with
Yeah.
that squad. So, but
Yeah.
our defense this year is just going to have to prove themselves.
Yeah. Scott Renew says you guys are doing a great job. Love and support over here in Japan. Going to go back to work. 41-14 dogs. Thanks, Scott, man. Thanks for your service. All the way from Japan, man. I don't know what time that game starts in Japan on Saturday, but hope you get a chance to take a peek at it. So here's another thing that before we step into where the rubber meets the road, one thing I noticed today that could be some bulletin board material and talking about our defense. I was looking at linebackers. I was looking at middle linebackers, outside linebackers, and all of these statistics from across the nation and who's top 10 linebacker, cores and teams and things of that nature. I don't know about you, man, but if Schumann doesn't have this list that I pulled from CBS Sports, there is not one of our linebackers on anybody's top 10 list. And these are from the likes of C.J. Allen, Smile Munden, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, whether he's on an end or they get him in the outside linebacker
that's
position.
because he's listed as a lineman, I'm sure.
True. But and then we haven't even broken into Quintavious Johnson, Justin Williams,
Raylan,
Todd Bowles. It's just an insane group of linebackers. I hope that that's plastered somewhere on some kind of bulletin boards right behind us here in Sanford Stadium's locker room. Coming to you from Sanford Stadium, man. If you look at these backdrops, man, I think these things look incredible. Make sure you go follow us on Facebook, YouTube, drop a like and follow, and then X on Twitter. So make sure you go drop a like and follow. So where's the rubber meet the road? How's the game going to be won? So let's dive in this real quick. So I've heard a lot about Klubnik, right? Klubnik's legs, athlete, former baseball player, also plays a little baseball, I think, on the baseball team, or did his first 2 years. But something you mentioned before we talk about the rubber meeting the road. Let's talk about Dabo real quick in the portal. So Dabo's obviously not a portal guy, right? And I was talking to Richman before we came on, and something that came up and made me go look. And I'll let you guys kind of chime in on this. I think sometimes the reason why you might be looking at Dabo going, what's going on in his mind? How does he feel coming into this game, right? I even heard where he went to some Spurrier antics during the middle of the week. He really spurned some of the questions and kind of talked about, the Spurrier antics and kind of taking the victim role, and the game where Spurrier and him were talking after they both got their butt kicked in their opening game of the year. Anyways, I was telling Rich, man, if you look at the portal, it's very, very hard to not use a tool that the NCAA is giving you. And I'll tell you why. It's because now you're in 2024/2025. And if he didn't go into the portal, you have a Georgia who in the last 6 years has landed a top 5 class in each of those years and has been able to go and use the portal when necessary. And you have a Clemson team who in the last 5 years has only averaged I'm going to say a top 10 because that could be anywhere in the 10. They've had the 10th ranked recruiting class for the past 4 years, and they have not dipped into the portal. So you got to wonder, yes, that's a great thing for culture because you look at players and they go, I'm going to play here at Clemson. I'm being intentionally recruited. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about Dabo in the portal when you look at his recruiting rankings? Fish, what do you think about all of this, and how does that stand to possibly be something that bites him on Saturday?
Well, you're right. I like the terminology that if you're not using a tool that the NCAA has granted you or is allowing you to use, I think you're missing a huge opportunity. Now, Clemson recruits at a high level. They're a top 10 class every year, just about, or have been for the past few years. But and Georgia is a top 4 or 5 class every year, but when Georgia loses somebody or we need a spot filled with somebody, we go get it. And I think the proof is in the pudding. We've only lost 2 games in 3 seasons.
Uh-huh.
It's hard to look past that. And Dabo has kind of been losing 4 or 5 games a year for the past couple of years. He's been on the downward trend.
Right.
You know, so I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, I hate to say that, but I mean, just it's you can't look past that. Like, you can't deny
Right.
that, like, he's missing out on a huge opportunity.
Yeah, and here's the thing, man. Recruiting class 10 and recruiting class 2, if you go back 2 years prior, COVID, 2020, 2019, those 2 years, Clemson and Georgia were neck and neck in recruiting. Those players are not on that team anymore. They're gone. So Klubnik's first year was 2022, 23, 24. They were 10th. That's 10th and 2 is a difference in 4 to 5 4-stars and a couple of 5-stars. Like, there's a huge difference in 10 and 2,
Huge difference.
10 and 1. Richman, you mentioned this as well in there. Like, what are they? It's depth. How does that messing with depth?
Dabo's showing up with one arm tied behind his back, and going forward with the new playoff system, the depth is going to be who wins the natties, and it's gonna. And if you're not using the portal to, you know, if I'm down, you know, if I'm weak in the lineman area or receiver area, you know, go find somebody and stick them in there. Somebody that played, you know, pretty good football, maybe at the, you know, maybe not a Power 5, but, you know, in another school that had a great season, you know, put them in your system and build some depth, because, you know, whoever's going to win, we're all going to take our bruises, especially in the SEC.
Right.
And you're going to have depth.
Yeah. Yeah. The portal, and then that, to me, that starts where the rubber meets the road. So how is the game going to be won in these areas? And we're going to talk about what it might take and what'll happen. But to me, that's the number one place to start is the portal, and Dabo's backbone of the portal, you know, going to create a problem for when it comes to depth. When Georgia's rotating offensive linemen, when they're rotating this defensive line, that I just think Kirby is building this drama up. I mean, guys, we have some dudes on the defensive line. I really, like, I think we're gonna see some young talent step up on Saturday. We haven't seen a Boku play. We haven't seen a Janye play. Apparently Brinson was good all week. Warren Brinson was great. He didn't really compete during spring. He didn't really compete during fall. But, you know, something Kirby said was, he was like, he's been here for plenty of falls, you know? So it's like, this ain't his first rodeo. And I've heard a lot of good things about Nat Stackhouse. So I mean, it's not like we're not walking in there with zero people at the nose. You know?
This could be Stackhouse's year. I mean,
it could be.
He may end up being the man, and I hope he is, because I really like him.
Yeah, I like Stackhouse. I mean,
Yeah.
I think seeing him run, I think it was Georgia, Tennessee, seeing him run 70 yards, man, is something I will probably my most memorable moment of Stackhouse's career. Klubnik's, man, what is his legs? So I'm thinking, I have 4 things down here, and you guys can chime in because there may be more. But Klubnik, I think his legs are gonna be a difference maker. Very athletic kid. He is most comfortable throwing on the run.
And he can throw either way. He can throw the ball left, going to the left or the right.
Yes.
Either way.
Yeah.
Which is unusual.
Well, since you dove in, Rich, what do you think? What do you think about Klubnik's legs? Like, is this something we need to be worried about? I know Fish even mentioned it earlier. Is this something we need to be worried about? Is this kind of where the rubber meets the road for Georgia?
I think he needs to run. I hope we're forcing him out and making him run, because he's been running for his life for 3 seasons?
Yeah.
2 seasons, and this will be his 3rd.
Yeah.
So he needs to keep running.
Yeah.
We need to
hopefully backwards or sideways.
Yeah, I mean, we need to be flushing him out. And watching that line, man, I think he's going to be running for his life, and I think he's going to run the ball a lot. Will he hurt us? Well, we'll see. I mean, the speed that we have on our defense from sideline to sideline is crazy, and it has been for about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about him running, and I think they're going to have to resort to him running.
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
What I'm worried about is if those freshman receivers are getting separation and catching long balls. I don't want to see that. You know, that's what I'm worried about. And I don't, you know, that's an unknown. I don't think they will, but we'll see. And
we talked about that. You talked about that earlier. I mean, that's another thing of the portal, right? So Georgia, I mean, Georgia has great talent at the wide receiver position at a young age. I mean, there's so many Nitro Tuggle. There's so many receivers that we recruited that are really great, but there's no, there's no room there.
So the other
there's
thing
great,
with the other thing with freshman receivers, are they going to be blocking downfield at this
Right.
level? Probably not.
Right.
And the other thing, are they going to be able to get separation? I don't know. What we're probably going to see is a lot of the slot. And if they're smart, they'll go to that tight end. But
as Fish says, man, CJ Allen's wearing a single digit this year, and he looked fast as heck wearing 2 digits. And so I'm excited to see CJ Allen.
Single-digit linebackers are better than normal ones. I'm telling
you. It's like what you want to see, man. It's like a double-digit linebacker. You're like, all right, Derek Brooks got away with 56. I get it, man. He looked pretty intimidating, but bro, imagine Derek Brooks in like a 5. Like he was.
I mean, it's just scarier. Look, we got 2, we got 5, and what number is CJ going to be wearing this year? Because Raylan Wilson is
going to be wearing 3.
Smiles number 2. See,
CJ's 3 this year.
Dude,
good luck. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, you said it yourself, man. The water boy, he wore 1, bro. The water boy wore 1. And
visualize an attack.
Bro, he hit you like he was trying to kill you. So I have Maffa and Miller. These are unknowns, right? The only thing I know about Maffa and looking at him, I did see, I take it back, Richmond. I did see a little bit of the spring game. Maffa reminds me a little bit of like I don't know if you guys go back to when we had like Musa Smith. He kind of reminds you of like, he has average speed. He'll hit you. He kind of wants to hit you first. He's not going to run around you. He's not going to run, he's not going to be elusive. But I'm just concerned that those running backs and the talent they have at running backs, if the offensive line can't pass block or run block, man, how effective are they? I mean, yeah, they're on here where the rubber meets the road, but I'm going to be honest with you, man. As soon as there is no run game for Clemson, it's done. It's over. It's over because, man, these linebackers are going to pin their ears back. And
the other thing is they can't go to the swing pass, the screen passes. I mean, if you're going to play against Georgia and be successful, you got to go straight at them, and you got to throw the ball vertically. That's the only success that that there's been out there against us in the last couple of years. And I didn't see anything like that in their spring game. They were sideline to sideline. You just can't go sideline to sideline with the speed that we have.
Yeah, I agree. What about, so Fish, I got a question for you. What about, I have on here, who's the guy this year? I know you named a guy, and I named a guy, but something I thought about, and I posed the question is, last year was Carson's first year. So he was very dependent on finding a lad, finding a Brock when he needed him, right? We were in a bind, who we're going to. And you hear the commentators all the time talking about, when it's 3rd and 3, they're like, where's Bowers? Where's Ladd? I have some answers, but who do you think is the go-to guy this year for Georgia on 3rd and 3?
On 3rd and 3? Oh, Oscar Delp. I mean, and I hate, I know we joke around about referencing this, but have you seen Delp's like stats on NCAA? He's crazy, and I use him a lot over the middle. Like, there's some really nice plays set up over there, and I don't know what Bobo has schemed up for him or anything, but I'm going tight end, whether it be Delp, Yarasek, Lucky, whoever's in there, whoever's getting a breather, whoever,
I agree.
Whoever is in there at the time.
Because I don't know what our other receivers are going to have to evolve. He's going to have to find his his first and second. Like last year. I mean, actually, if Ra wasn't there, I would say Ra, but he's not with us anymore. So I don't know how it's going to evolve. But last year, he had Jack Saint was always like his check down, and he was reliable. And so who's going to be that check down reliable receiver? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you if I had to pick a person, I mean, I'm gonna steer away from it here so we can create conversation, but if I'm picking a person, this is the person I picked probably 4 or 5 shows ago, but I think somebody who's going to have an incredibly big game Saturday is Dylan Bell. I think Bell is going to be his go-to this year. I think he has great hands. I think he has just an incredible body type for college football. I think Bell's going to go on to play great on a pro team as well. Bell is able to actually hone in on wide receiver this year. He was in as much in the running back playbook and scheme as he was in the wide receiver scheme last year. But I think Bell will be a guy to go to. But I also think that Carson Beck will be able to go to himself. I think he'll be able to pull on some of his talent. Carson Beck is a quarterback that it's arguable, but is Carson Beck a quarterback that Georgia hasn't had in a long time? Maybe since Matthew Stafford, right? You look at Stetson, you look at you look at Fromm, you look at all these guys, but you look at Beck, and Beck's, he's got
Beck's an operator, man. He's got it.
I think he's
going
to go to himself.
He made last year were insane. I mean, just off the back foot, slinging it 25 yards on a rope.
Right.
I'll tell you what was so impressive about Beck. Beck's short passes are always on the money. And you see a lot of good quarterbacks, and they just can't throw those swing passes out to the running back. They mess them up. Yeah. And I don't know, they get too antsy, too amped up or whatever, but he was always consistently hit those short passes that a lot of quarterbacks just can't hit.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Of course, he owned the middle. I mean, he could thread the needle in the middle. So
yeah, I think he's going to depend a lot on himself, and that sounds very, selfish. But what I mean by that is if there's a guy, he's going to trust his arm strength. He's going to trust his, regardless of if he's looking at, and I'm hoping I'm wrong about this, but regardless of if he's looking at any players that he looks at and goes, they have sure hands, or any players he looks at and goes, man, that's been sketchy to throw to in the past few years. I think he's going to look and go, I trust the process. I know where I'm going to put it, whether it's Bell, whether it's Urasek, whether it's Delp, whether it's anybody on our list. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he commands the offense this year at a high capacity. Let's hop in real quick. A little thing called third and long, kind of give our listeners and our viewers a little shot of what we could see, and just kind of think of what may happen and what might not happen. It's kind of like if both could happen, what's more likely to happen? I'll let you guys kind of get a gist of this. So long shot scenarios, third and long, right? So number one, I got Branson Robinson rushes for over 100 yards, or Cole Klubnik rushes for over 100 yards. Who you got, Fish?
Give me Robinson rushing for 100. And that's assuming that ETN doesn't see the field.
See, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Robinson's going to have a day, man. I'm telling you. I'm rooting for Branson Robinson. I want him to run straight through the first person in front of him and set the tone for the day. I love Branson Robinson. What do you got, Fish? I mean, what do you got, Richmond?
Dude, if Klubnik gets 100 yards, we're all going to have long faces.
Yeah, we lose.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, if he gets 100 rushing yards, we lose.
And I just don't see it.
Unless we hurt him on the 101st yard. I got Branson Robinson as well, more likely that to happen. I'm rooting for Branson, man. Rooting for him. Carson Beck throws for 300 yards, or Clemson picks him off at least once. What do you got, Rich, man?
That's a tough one. I'm going to be a homer. I'm going for 300 yards.
300 yards, okay. No picks from Clemson. What do you got, Fish?
I'm going both.
Both?
But he also has 4 touchdowns.
Can't do both, bro.
But he's also got 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns, yeah. That trumps it.
4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think first game jitters might happen. I hope he doesn't throw it when we need it. But there might be a pick out there somewhere. But also, too, if he doesn't throw for 300 yards, 2 things are going to happen. Either the defense is going to be scoring a lot for us, like against Oregon, or we rushed for 200 yards. And I would like either one of those and be fine with it.
It was 10-3 last time we played him. So, I mean, something like that could happen again.
Dude, I would love to see another Oregon I'm sitting there and just in awe. Man. We're up 4 touchdowns, and I'm like, what are they thinking, man? Like, what is Oregon thinking right now, right? I'd like to relive that one again against Clemson. Clemson has a 100-yard receiver, and it's not a wide receiver. What do you think, Fish? Yes or no? Do they have a 100-yard receiver, and is it a wideout?
No, I'm going tight end. whatever his name is. Brink Benning School or Brink Benning School or whatever.
I'm going to say
Brenning
Clemson
School
is not going to have a 100-yard receiver in this game, but it's going to be Antonio Williams because he's their number one out of the slot. You're going to see he's their proven guy, so you're going to see a lot of him. Let's just hope he doesn't he doesn't have that many receptions.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's getting hit with hit on when the ball gets there, he's getting popped.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm sure he will be. Malachi playing center field. I mean, that's we're lucky to have him still. Like, we're lucky he decided to come back for another year.
I'll tell you something else I saw in that spring game. They were running where they had one safety back and they were rushing like I think 6. And so the other guys were on man-to-man. If they try that on us, I know it's early in the season, but I think Carson Beck will eat that alive.
Yeah. I mean, you essentially have to.
I mean, I know they got good edge rushers. They got Parker. Is that Parker and
Parker and then
Peter Woods.
Yeah, Peter Woods. Yeah.
And Parker. I mean, those are their rushers. But I mean, if we can contain those guys and they try to run something like that, I mean, we are going to eat that up.
Yeah, I agree. Welcome everyone that's joined. We are hopping into third and long shot scenarios. You got scenarios, pop it into the chat. Go like, follow on YouTube. Appreciate you joining tonight. What about Georgia causes? This is a tough one. Georgia causes 3 turnovers or Clemson allows 3 rushing touchdowns. What you got, Fish?
Definitely Clemson allowing 3 rushing touchdowns. I think our red zone offense this year is going to be leaps and bounds better than it was last year because it kind of has to be. Because last year we weren't great inside the 10 or like 5 or 10. You know, I mean, red zone, we kicked a lot of field goals and scored some touchdowns, but when we got inside the 5, it just seemed like we didn't have any good plays, for that short yardage. So hopefully this year with our running back depth and Beck having a season under his belt, we got a couple of good tight ends because I know we're going to run some 2 or 3 tight end sets.
I think Branson Robinson's going to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's going to be tough in the red zone.
Yeah. I think the debate's over, man. Like, I've been thinking all week, I'm like, do I need a Branson jersey, man? Like, I might need a 2-2, man.
What's he, number 0?
2-2. Branson Robinson, 22. I'll tell you a jersey you can resurrect, man. Go ahead and resurrect your Todd Gurley jersey for Nate Frazier because he's running around in 3, and I think we're going to see Nate Frazier. And I've heard
I hope so.
There ain't too many backs who garner that much attention in a 5-week span at University of Georgia RBU than Nate Frazier has gotten. And they let him see the ball a whole lot scrimmage too. And I heard he looked really good. So I'm excited about Nate Frazier as well as all of our running backs. I got Georgia. I got Clemson allows 3 rushing touchdowns as well. Jake Brenningstool is targeted less than Oscar Delp. What do you think? I'm sorry. Let me get somebody. What do you got, Fish?
I believe it. Definitely. I think Delp's going to see at least 7 or 8 targets, at least.
I agree. What about you? What about you, Richman?
I agree. I mean, that's the one where they said, if they come out with something creative, which they don't really expect, that they would be targeting their tight end. Apparently, he's good. They just don't use him much.
Right.
So.
What about Georgia causing a special teams turnover or Clemson returns a kick or a punt for a TD? What you got, Richman?
Oh man, special teams turnover.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Special teams turnover. Man, special teams, man. The Kirby loves some special teams, man. And let me just tell you, I heard an interesting stat that that some teams don't even have a special teams coordinator. University of Florida, to say the least. So last year, we all know what University of Florida's defense looked like. We'll keep it very minimal on that tonight because we could go an extra 30 minutes to talk about that. But apparently last year they had seven penalties that carved out a spot for either a go-ahead touchdown or a win in the game, and they had no special teams coordinator last year. They have one this year, thank God. But just goes to show, man, what Kirby puts into special teams, how starters embrace, not just starters, but quote unquote big time players, big time parts of the offense and defense are on special teams and don't just look at it as a second or third man up type role is huge. And I think special teams is going to play a huge part of this game. Clemson's the same way. They you've seen a lot of trickery in Dabo and Clemson a lot in special teams in the past. So I think special teams is going to play a big role in whether this game is close or it's not. So I agree with that. So pretty cool right there. So let's before we hop into picks tonight, I thought it would be cool to kind of throw this out there and talk about it. We've heard so much about Dabo and obviously Kirby. We heard from Kirby last week, and I know we might be biased on this, but I tell you what, I'm going to ask you guys first, and then I'll take the lighter of the two, so that we can talk about it. But Dabo and Kirby both have their own ways of motivating. A lot of people say they'd love to play for Dabo. A lot of people are obviously like they'd love to play for Kirby. So, Richman, I'm coming to you first. What about you, man? Are you more of a Dabo guy, like that motivation and that type of coach, and that's the one you want to play for, or is Kirby more your guy?
So let me do this. The kid from Georgia, that the 5-star linebacker, his last name's Brown. I can't remember if his first name is Bobby.
Sammy Brown.
Sammy Brown. So if I was Sammy Brown, I would have gone to Georgia because he's a 5-star and he's supposed to be the best thing since Bosworth. So I would go to Georgia and I would get developed to play in the pros and I'd get me a ring. But if I was a 2-star or a 3-star, I'd go with Dabo because he's old school. He's very Christian oriented. It's just old school football. But if I was a 5-star, man, I'd be at Georgia. If I was a 2 or 3-star, I'd go with Dabo. I think I'd have a better chance to play and get developed. And he's old school. I wouldn't be worried about him going in the portal and pulling somebody in front of me.
Right. What about you, Fish? You a Dabo guy or a Kirby guy? Just from styles.
Dabo's inability to change would be the reason I would go play for Kirby. I like old school, I do, but I like to win too. I like to win. Like I would want to win. I'd rather be number 2 or number 3, get a couple of rings, sit and then play my senior year, show out, go get drafted because I'm NFL ready, and Georgia is proven to put out a bunch of NFL talent. So that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah. Give me Kirby, man. I'm gonna give it to you. Quick answer. Motivating factors for me are just that. If you are a great motivator and a great culture person, if you can look at your players square in the face and tell them the truth and treat them not so what I call it, just powder puffy, and they can respect that. That means, and he's done that. He gets personal enough with you, and he motivates you enough to where when he's ready to rip into you, including coaches, right? We've heard him on the mic. Coaches are walking around, and he's ripping into them left and right, man. I mean, Ben Urasek is one to pick out with this. Obviously, came to us from Stanford, and he has a lot of respect for Kirby. And in an interview, they have Kirby hollering over the loudspeaker one day, talking about how he tells Ben Urasek, he's like, "You have a degree from Stanford, but you can't figure out the snap count." And Urasek. And Urasek comes back around and he's like, man, that motivated the crap out of me because he was like, my coaches never called me out like that. My coaches never held me accountable. My coaches never gave me an excuse on why I couldn't do things the right way. To me, the motivation from Kirby, I would run through a wall for Kirby. Like Kirby says, I think Kirby's my dad, basically. I never had. So I'm with Kirby, and that's my vote. Maybe it's biased. I like Dabo too. I love the fact that Dabo sticks to his guns. I know you guys said old school. He's once again great motivator. He's definitely a coach that I would love to see my kid go play for. I think he's a stand-up guy.
Hey, Dabo has pizza parties when they win a natty.
There you go, man. Maybe it's Papa John's. Is it Papa John's or is it Pizza Hut? Because if it's Papa John's, like I get that.
That does matter. That does matter.
Yeah, but Kirby man is my guy. So let's hop in, man. We got about 10, 11 minutes left in the show tonight. So this is the part, man, we've all been waiting for. Let's pick these games, man. Let's see if we can. I'm gonna try to keep up as much as possible so we can keep up with our records. You do your same so you don't cheat, so we can kind of keep a somewhat of a yearly running tab on these. Most weeks we'll pick SEC, but with some standout games. But for the first week, I thought we would try to get mostly every game that we could that had some weight to them. So obviously, tomorrow night kind of kicks it off. Thursday night, we get a chance to see Missouri. We don't get a chance to see them play somebody that's going to probably give them any huge problems, but we do get a chance to see what they look like on defense. You've heard the holes they had to fill on defense, and a lot of questions around Missouri with a very easy schedule, but and a great offense is, do they have enough on defense to make a run this year with the Luther Burdens and the Weises and things of that nature? But Missouri, number 11 team in the country, goes and plays Murray State tomorrow night, Thursday night football on ESPN. Fish, I'll come to you first, man. Who you got?
Give me Mizzou by 21.
Mizzou by 21. I hear you. I wouldn't take the points on that, but go ahead. What about you, Rich Man? Who you got? Mizzou.
I got Mizzou.
Mizzou, Murray State. Yeah, I think it's Missouri. I think it's a blowout, but I think it's a cool thing to get a chance to see this team because we don't know much about. I mean, it's going to be great for week one because we just don't. We've seen these teams behind an opinion for the entire offseason. Now we get to see them in uniform, running around the field, kind of get our own gist. I think it was cool to watch Tech and Florida State play because you could see what was real and what was fake about all the talk over the summer. I'll just leave it at that. Friday night, TCU, Stanford. Richman, TCU, Stanford. Who you got?
I got TCU.
TCU
by a shoe, 3 points.
TCU by a shoe versus Stanford. Man, Stanford has struggled last couple of years. Who you got, Fish?
Well, and I think their best player transferred to us last year. so I'm definitely going TCU.
Yeah, that's my funny you should say that. The deciding factor for me is their saving grace is in Athens. So yep. And he'll be in Atlanta on Saturday. I got TCU. I got TCU big, man. I'm concerned about Stanford. That guy's on the hot seat. I don't even know his name, but I saw his name with an S beside it from Stanford. But, this is his year, whether they decide to kind of start over or whatnot. Saturday games coming to the big house. Number 9, Michigan.
Hold up.
Go ahead. Don't
Temple and Oklahoma play Friday night?
I didn't have all the games down, but if you want to pick that one, yeah, Temple, Oklahoma, okay. Friday night. Yeah, who you got?
Well, I'm picking the Sooners, but
Sooners.
but yeah, I didn't.
Does Temple still have a Georgia quarterback on their roster? I don't know. Or is he gone? His mouth is gone. He's a coach. He probably has a better chance of making coach. What is that? Dwan Mathis? Probably has a better chance. Who you got? Who you got? The Okies, or you got Richmond, or you got?
I'm going with the Okies.
The Okies from Oklahoma, man. The question is I think the big question with that game is, Fish, is does their offense look what it's looked the past few years? Is the offensive line improved? You need to see some improvement in the offensive line. You need to see some improvement in the secondary. And can the offense, with no Jeff Lebby, can it score points, right?
Yep.
Because they're coming into a very tough schedule in the SEC. Coming to the big house, Fresno State, Michigan, number 9, Michigan on Big Ten Network. So weird, man.
Yeah.
Gary Danielson went to the Big Ten Network. A loss.
Did he really?
Finally. He did. He's calling those games. So we don't have to worry about him anymore unless we play Ohio State maybe in the national championship. I don't know.
Oh my God!
They're probably not going to let him have that
nationally televised. No, he won't.
No, never. Fish, who you got? Michigan, Fresno State. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Wolverines, but I don't think it's going to be as big a blowout. I mean, I don't know. Fresno State's one of those teams that sometimes they'll show up for a game and they'll play like they'll play their best game of the year.
Aren't they the Bulldogs?
They're the Bulldogs.
Yes, man. They are. Yeah, and they'll scare. They've managed to scare a few teams over the past 5 or 10 years. So, but Michigan definitely.
Yeah, it's a night game in Ann Arbor. Who you got? Richmond?
Michigan, if they still have a program,
right? If this not to give up their 3 3 years worth of stuff, man. All because you just couldn't keep your eyes off the signs. You just couldn't keep your eyes off the signs, man. So be careful. I don't want
So
to.
did they officially lose the national? I mean, what happens?
They would have to. What do they call it? They leave it behind or
forfeit.
Forfeit. Yes, there you go. Forfeit their last 3 whatever bowl games.
That would make DeBoer the national champion head coach.
I think so. I don't know how that works.
I don't know
as far as history is concerned. I know that back in the Nebraska days, there are some things.
I think it's kind of like a second cousin once removed national championship.
Right. It happened, but nobody claims it.
Asterisk.
We're not bragging about it. You know, we're definitely not at Thanksgiving going, guys. Right. I mean, unless you're UCF, you know, and you're claiming when they claim the national championship, and they still do.
Yeah, they had shirts made. They went to Disney World.
That makes it to the Thanksgiving table, but it definitely that ain't making it to the Thanksgiving table, man. New national champion, you know, whatever. Furman and Ole Miss. Richman, Furman, Ole Miss. Who you got?
I got Ole Miss.
Ole Miss in a yard. What you got, Fish?
Give me Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. I got Ole Miss, but what I'm looking for is what does this defensive secondary look like, and what does this defensive front look like? Because everybody is pinning this on. This is a better defense. Offense is going to be good. I'm curious to see the running back position, but is this defense improved? Walter Nolan, you got the kid from Prince. Umani something. I don't know, man.
They better look like world beaters against Furman.
If Furman if they give up more than 14 to Furman, then we'll know that the defense is not as awesome as it should be.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. I agree. Western Kentucky going into Tuscaloosa, number 5, Alabama. Ooh, we Kalen DeBoer, first game at Alabama. The Hilltoppers, man, they're not pushovers, man. I mean, I'm not going to say they're they're not pushovers. Who you got, Fish? I'll give it to you.
Here's the question: will Milroe get 100 yards rushing?
I think he'll get 100 yards rushing. Does he get 100 yards passing? I don't
know.
Right, exactly. Fish, who you got, man? Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Hilltoppers.
I don't want to give Alabama fans the satisfaction of me picking their team to win, so I'm going to go upset alert.
Man's taking a loss because he ain't picking Bama. I hear you, man. I hear you. Hilltoppers by a shoe.
By 1.5.
1.5, man.
By 2.
Ambulance pulls on the field at the wrong time. DeBoer gets taken out. Which goes down.
Something crazy happens.
Who you got, Rich man?
I'm going to take the Hammers.
Yeah, I think Bama wins, but I think what you got to look for, man, is you got to remember week 1 are statement games, right? You got to look at how these teams are going to play. You know, you look at, some of these teams we're fixing to pick in a minute that have real games, right? They actually are not paying, anywhere from $1 to $2 million to these teams to come and take a beat down that you hope happens. But you hope you see the Alabama that everybody's talked about. I want to see if DeBoer is running this Penix offense with Milroe. If that is happening, look out. There's some losses in Alabama's future, a lot of them.
Another thing, too, is can DeBoer get his 5 stars over there motivated to play Western Kentucky in the first game of the season? That's going to be interesting because if they come out really flat, man, I don't know what that says for DeBoer.
Yeah, I agree. We'll
definitely see it.
Alabama A&M goes to the Plains of Auburn, number 22 ranked Auburn. Richman, who you got?
Oh, man. I'll take Auburn by 1.
You're like Fish. You don't want to pick this game, but you are. Auburn. I'm gonna pick in the middle of you guys on this one. I got Auburn by like 60, man. Alabama A&M is terrible. I mean, even Auburn can. Did I say that? Even Auburn can beat them by 60. It's gonna be a long day for Alabama and A&M.
My wife will say War Eagle. I think the over. I want to take what's the over under on how many times my wife says War Eagle.
A lot, man. A whole lot. But once again, what you want to see is Thorne. Is he the starter? Like, is he going to be able to take all the reps? How does that wide receiver core look? Are they clean? Are they how the routes look? Do we look like we're confused? Do we look like this offense as a whole is going to click this year better than it did last year? Because that's going to say a lot about if Auburn is what some people think could be a possible solid middle of the pack, upper level pack team this year.
Yep.
You got to see that. You got to see that offense gel. They have the running back to do it. I think Thorne has the legs to do it, but can he show the arm to do it is huge. Old Dominion, South Carolina. We're picking this one just because it's an SEC team. What do you got, Fish? Old Dominion, South Carolina.
Gamecocks by 14.
14. Old Dominion. Is Old Dominion holding something we don't know about?
I just don't have a lot of faith in South Carolina, although their quarterback is looking good. So maybe 17.
Sellers. Yeah. Who you got, Richmond?
Gamecocks.
Gamecocks. I'm calling Gamecocks, but I want to see what I think you just said. What was key, man? Lenore Sellers. What does he look like? It's a quarterback that is kind of reminds you of a Milroe guy. Like he was brought in. He has a lot of athletic talent. Arm strength is there, but what I heard about him as far as his recruiting, talent was it's there, but sometimes he don't know where it's going, and so that's not going to help him in the SEC. Colorado State goes down to Austin, plays University of Texas, number 4 ranked Texas. Texas coming in limping with very few running backs. Who do you got in this one, Richmond?
Oh, the Steers.
Steers paid $1.9 million to Colorado State, by the way. I got Texas as well in this one. $1.9 million buys you a win for me. What do you got, Fish?
Remember last year when Colorado State went to Boulder for that night game?
Yeah.
Game day was there.
Yeah.
And they gave Colorado everything they wanted. And you're like, whoa, wow, good game, Colorado State. That was great. And then Colorado lost like 5 out of the next 7 games. And you're like, oh, okay, so they're not as good as they should.
I was wanting them to win that game, man.
I hope Colorado
I was too.
Like that.
Yeah.
I hope Colorado State puts up a fight, but I think Texas is going to get them. Definitely.
Texas. They better be in the air. And you know what? Things are always bigger in Texas. We may see a running back that comes out of the woodwork, and they're holding a stable of running backs, I'm sure, that just haven't really.
The Pearl sitting on the bench somewhere.
Right. Something like that.
The Pearl.
Something like that. I got Texas in that one, but I think it's going to be big. It's at home. It's in Austin. First game of the year. They want to make their SEC presence felt. You definitely don't want to go limping out of this game into a possible, you're going to Michigan next week. So you definitely don't want to play around. You want to rest some players this week. We got next Akron at number 2, Ohio State University. Akron. It's a crosstown rivalry, right? Is this their rivalry? Yeah. Akron?
Man, it's like Georgia Southern.
Yeah, there you go. Who you got, Fish?
Give me the Stuck Eyes.
Suck Stuck Eyes. I don't know which one you said.
Stuck.
Perfect. Richmond, who you got in this game?
Buckeyes.
The Buckeyes. I got the Buckeyes as well. I want to see how well Howard's quarterback gels. I want to see how this. They talk so much about how Henderson and Quinshawn Junkins are meshing so well together. I really want to see how they zig and zag. I want to see how Howard commands the offense. Defense is loaded. I think you'll see a good showing from the defense because that's Akron. But really, what you want to see is can this offense click like it's supposed to be? You got Chattanooga, crosstown rivalry of Tennessee, right? 2. Chattanooga coming in to Neyland, number 15 ranked Tennessee. Who you got, Richmond?
The Rocky Tops.
Rocky Top, you'll always be. I got Rocky Top as well. Fish, who you got?
Tennessee wearing their smoky grays that they've been piping up all off season. They're new. It's the same uniform.
It's ugly too.
Like every year they talk about we got new smoky grays, and they're always the same.
I hate orange. I'd rather wear orange than smoky gray.
I'd rather wear smoky gray because I don't want to see the orange. But I agree, man. I got Tennessee.
I don't even wear orange deer hunting, man.
We just start wearing smoky gray. Obviously, it's the new orange. You might get shot, but we're the new orange. We're the smoky gray. I think you got to see the secondary for Tennessee, man. I think the offense they're gonna get shots against this Chattanooga. I don't know if they have the stellar 5-star defense we don't know about, but I think you need to see the secondary and what Tennessee's holding on defense. I think they have some talk built around the defense with Pierce and a couple of big name players, but can that secondary improve from last year? And we'll be able to see that, and maybe not see much, but do they mesh well? How's that look? Southern Miss going into Kentucky. Mark Stoops starts his new year of flipping a coin to figure out if he's going to be relevant or not this year. What do you got, Fish? Kentucky, Southern Miss. What do you think?
Give me the Fighting Vandergriffs by 21.
Fighting Vandergriffs. Who you got, Fish? Who you got, Richman?
I got the Vandergriffs as well. I can't wait to see him play, man. I'm excited.
I can't either. Me too.
I'm going to pull a Corso on this, and I'm going to say not so fast, but it's not an upset. I think it's Kentucky, but I think it's close. I think it's closer than people think. I think Southern Miss is going to come in there. It's that area of recruiting. Southern Miss has made some improvements in the past few years, just in not being at the bottom of the barrel. Went to a bowl last year, so that's positive. I think it's going to be close. I think they have a lot of things. Kentucky has a lot of things to work out. Another big time, kind of like Ole Miss, big time portal school. How's your defense going to look with Dumas Johnson, all these new faces? The offense, same thing. I think they have some things they need to iron out. Will it be enough against Southern Miss? It will, but I think it'll be close. Just be careful, because you don't want to drop this game, because it is a very, very tough schedule ahead of you and the rest of the SEC. All right, getting into some real meat here. Number 8, Penn State goes down up to West Virginia. Actually, they do go down to West Virginia. I got this game circled, man. This might be my first upset alert, but Richman, let's hear who you got.
Dude, I got West Virginia on this one. There's something wrong with Penn State. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong with
James Franklin.
I'm thinking, yeah, I think that dude, when he was at Vanderbilt, he was kind of a caustic coach towards the other coaches in the SEC. I think he's a caustic person, man. I think there's something wrong with that program.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It just doesn't make sense.
It's got the Paterno curse, man. The Joe Paterno, the Joe Pa curse.
Could be, but
yeah, sacrifice a live chicken in the stadium. I like West Virginia. Who you got, Fish?
I'm gonna take West Virginia. Easy. Penn State. I don't know. They'll always. And what's sad is their schedule plays out where they can just lose to Ohio State, Michigan, and still be a top 10, 11, 12, 13 team, because that always seems to be where they land every year, which has them in the playoffs, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Seth Hutcherson, what's up, buddy? Mizzou, baby. That's a big Mizzou fan, man. Thanks for joining, buddy. We picked your game earlier, Mizzou over Murray State. Great choice for an opening game. Love that. Don't know what you paid Murray State, but I'm sure that they got the loan earlier in the year so they could buy their jerseys and things of that nature. Go Mizzou. Good to have you, Seth. I love it. So I like West Virginia in this one, man. I'm scared to pick the third, be the third in a row upset alert. But two things, man. I want to hear them play West Virginia, Mountain Mama in there, and Country Roads, Take Me Home, all that mess when they win. I think West Virginia is going to be a shocker team. Pat McAfee, silly enough, picked West Virginia to win the Big 12. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But he's got West Virginia doing things. I like West Virginia, man, on paper. I think they have a great quarterback. I think they have some suspect things here or there surrounding them, and they got their backs against the wall. Just they haven't had any very competitive years, but they've been on the up and up, man. And I agree with you, Rich, man. There's something wrong maybe with Penn State, man. A lot of people like Penn State this year. They see the college playoff giving them a little bit of an upper hand, because Penn State's usually left out because they can't do what? They can't beat Ohio State. They can't beat Michigan. So you give them 2 losses, are they still in there because some of the other teams are not very competitive? 19 Miami, number 19 Miami going into the swamp, Napierville. Who you got, Fish?
Give me the Hurricanes, but I think it's going to be pretty close. I think it's going to be a solid game. think we're going to learn a lot about Florida. We're going to also learn a lot about Miami. But I think it's going to be super close. But give me Miami by 3.
Miami by 3. Who you got? Richman?
Man, as much as I hate the Gators, I'm going to take them.
I don't like the Hurricanes.
Bad.
I don't like the Hurricanes, man. I don't know what it is. Ever since Cristobal, man, couldn't seal the deal against Georgia Tech, man. I just needed to down the football, man. Just needed to down the football. I don't trust Cristobal, man. You can give him as much talent as you want to. Now, I will tell you this: Cam Ward, he's the real deal. I don't know if they have the pieces around him. They say they do. Restrepo is in there, wide receiver. There's some good players around him. I think Cam Ward has enough. My mind changed, though. I had Miami, but my mind changed during the day because I had lunch with a friend today who's a big-time Florida fan, but he's a classy Florida fan, and he's got this down as a win. I think there could be trouble. There could be trouble in Miami if Florida wins. There could be trouble in Florida if Miami wins. I'm going to take Florida very close. You may see some DJ Lagway. You got to definitely see something that you don't expect from Florida. I got Florida close. That's all I can say about that. Maybe a field goal, a foot. I like what you said about that. USC, LSU. This is a Sunday game. You got people that are not very high on USC. You got people that are not very high on LSU. Who you got, Richman? USC, LSU.
Dude, I got LSU. That's in Baton Rouge on a Saturday night.
That's actually in Vegas. That's Vegas on a Sunday night. Vegas on a Sunday.
Oh, I thought it was in Baton Rouge.
Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah,
I'm still taking LSU. I don't know.
LSU, just because USC has too many holes. I don't know. That might be it for me. They got a lot of holes.
I think USC has. I think they've been so overrated the last couple of years, and I watch them in a game I think they should win, and they just flounder, man.
Yeah.
So I think LSU. I'm just going to go. I'm not going to be a homer SEC guy. I'm going for LSU.
Nice. Fish, who you got?
I don't know if anybody else saw this. Brian Kelly came on Five Bomb Monday, and in the most weaseliest way I've ever heard, decided to talk about how these big week 1 games are going to have to change and a decision's going to have to be made. He is not a fan. He is mad that he has to play USC. He wants to come out of the gate and play some Rudy Poo, who he's going to run up the scoreboard on. And I just sat there and listening to him talk about that, man, I just lost so much respect for him. I don't understand what Fine.
You think he's expecting to lose?
I don't know. Maybe he was trying to precursor it, get in front of it. I don't know.
The water, get in front of it like Dabo.
And I hate Lincoln Riley as well. I'm sorry, hate's a strong word. I dislike him strongly. I don't let my students say hate either. So, but yes, give me USC.
Oh, Trojans. Yeah, the Trojans.
I hate to do it. I hate to pick against the SEC. I really do.
It's going to come down to
a weasel.
I don't like him. I don't like him either. I like LSU. I don't like him.
It's going to come down to that LSU secondary versus if Lincoln Riley's offense is really clicking and has LSU's secondary improved. I think they got the number 1 linebacker in the SEC. It's hard to pick, but I think he is number 1 linebacker in the SEC. Back at home in the middle of that defense, so that'll help. But have they built that secondary up? That's going to tell the tape against Lincoln Riley. I think Nussmeier. I think the run game, passing game. I like Nussmeier a lot. Nick Saban refers to Nussmeier as kind of your Mac Jones type thing. Mac Jones didn't do very well in the NFL. However, he was a great college quarterback. I got LSU in this one. I think it's going to be close, though. I think they could go back and forth.
Yep.
I think go back and forth because I think Lincoln Riley has to get the offense together this year. He has to. He has no choice. Otherwise, they wasted a ton of money on him, in my opinion. Last 2 games, this is a big one. Number 7, Notre Dame going into Kyle Field against Texas A&M. Number 20 ranked Texas A&M. Richman, who you got in this game?
I'm taking A&M. I just like that new coach. I like he's kind of like a drill sergeant. He's just kind of tough. He seems kind of old school. So I'm giving him benefit of the doubt. He can get out there and make it happen.
Nice. Fish, who you got?
I think the 12th man gives them the edge they need. That midnight yell practice they're going to do tomorrow night, where they're practicing their chants and they're lining it all up, and they're getting everything ready and rehearsed. They're going to be on it. It's going to be game day. It's going to be prime time game. Give me Texas A&M by a touchdown.
Yeah,
that collie's going to come out vicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Reveille, whatever his name is.
I'm scared,
Lassie.
man, because we all three
Lassie.
have Lassie. We all three have picked this game. We picked the West Virginia thing, and now we're all three in agreement about Texas A&M. I like Elko. I like Connor Weigman at A&M. The big thing is going to be A&M's revamped defense. You know, portal put together defense, but Elko's a defensive guy. That's the thing. Elko's a defensive guy, and Ken Riley Leonard, new team, this going against his old coach, right? I think Elko's a defensive guy. I think Elko knows what Leonard's going to bring to the to the wire. I think Elko, 12th man, Connor Weigman. I think they win, and I think Notre Dame will still find a way to get Notre Dame into the college football playoff with that loss. Notre Dame could probably have another loss and get in. It's Notre Dame, is what it is.
They can't be any higher ranked than 4, though. They're going to have to be 5 through 12. True. They can't be top 4.
It's true. I also think I'm going to tell you something. If A&M wins this game, I think you start hearing some game day stories about Freeman's seat at Notre Dame. I think you might start hearing some heat. They spent a lot of NIL money this year on Notre Dame. They spent a lot of money recruiting. They were right up there with Ohio State. They spent over, I think, $14-15 million in NIL this year. So need to be careful. Freeman could be looking at some heat. And then finally, Clemson, Georgia, 12 o'clock. It's a noon kickoff. We don't have to worry about it because we'll be in the comfort of the Dome, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta at noon. Who you got, Fish? I'll let you get first stabs at it. Who you got?
Give me the Dogs.
Better yet, it's probably we know who you got, but what's gonna be the factor for you that plays out? How does the game look for you? Score maybe.
I'm going with Beck and the running backs, and I'm not worried about our wide receivers. I'm not worried about our tight end. Beck is the guy. And we're going to learn a lot about how much he improved from last year, which there wasn't a lot of room for improvement. The man can sling it, but just watching him last year, and even if he improved even just a little bit, it's scary. 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns probably this year. Definitely a Heisman front runner. But that could also flip. People's heads do crazy things in the offseason. People get too big for their britches, getting all this money. The man drives a Lambo, he could be extra cocky, there's no sense. But I don't think that's going to happen at all. I don't think we have to worry about that. I think he's a pretty down-to-earth guy. I like how he's really laid back. You don't see him yelling and getting in people's faces because that's just not who he is. He's just sitting over there all calm and collected. And right. I think that's a great attribute for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So
give me a score, Fish. You got a score prediction?
49-21.
Okay. Richman, who you got? What's the deciding factors? What's the score?
I agree. I think that I think we're going to establish the running game early, and I agree. Beck, he's an ice man. I think he's gonna be able to deliver the ball and get it where it needs to be. There may be some drops, but I think he's going to be on. I think his improvement from last year is going to be confidence between his ears. They talked about the long ball, but I think he's had the long ball all along. So, yeah, I think it's. I'm going to say 30-7.
Yeah, but I like that too.
I agree with you. I like everything you said, and I'm not going against this. I'm most excited to see this, though. I want to see this defense prove everybody wrong. I want to see the front I just want to see uber talent be on display. I mean, you are talking about the 14th ranked team in the country who now might be a decent first pick in the ACC with Florida State going down to Tech, right? but you do see some sleepers in there. You see the Virginia Techs and a couple of those teams in the ACC that could now become front runners in that league.
You better watch out for Tech.
Yeah, and watch out for Tech. I mean, it definitely changes the dynamic of what Tech and Georgia looks like later on, but we'll obviously talk about that in a few months. But I think I want to see this defense flying around. I want to see fresh lines. I want to see, even though I think you're going to see Malachi and Dan back there, I'm interested to see KJ. I think you'll see Ellis a little bit at corner. I want to see these linebackers. I mean, when you take the first line out, you get a second line that's just crazy talented. I would just like to see us have that defensive game that we had against Oregon, where an offense that has some things going for him. Dabo is an offensive guy, obviously mixed in with the TCU coordinator from 3 years ago. I don't know his name, but they're gonna have some players that are able to score some points. But I'd love to see this defense really just show up, because everybody is expecting our offense to be very good. The talk's been, can the defense match the offense? We're going to have to see the defense look really good, because we don't have a lot of things on our plate that we can play around with in the next 4 weeks. Tennessee Tech next week, but then we go to Kentucky and we go to Tuscaloosa. Our defense needs to grow up. Yeah, their defense needs to grow up at 12 o'clock on Saturday. We don't need to see a team that's struggling on defense or offense for that matter, but I'd love to see our defense really just make a statement. And our offense obviously to do what it was supposed to. So I agree with you with the low scoring. I think they'll score. I give them 10, 14 in there some way, but I think a 31-14 sounds about right for me. 31, 38. But Kirby's known to. You're very rarely going to see anything in the 49s or 50s unless they just can't stop the run. Because when Kirby's up by 2 touchdowns or 17 points, he's on the run, man. Like, he's hammering it, run the clock, get the injuries out of there, no injuries, and get on to the next game. So 31-14, 38-14 sounds like good to me. At the end of the day, I hope we win. I think we have the tools to win. So yeah, man, exciting. We are in game week. We get some football tomorrow night. If you have not done so already and you joined tonight, make sure you go drop a like, follow. We're on Facebook, obviously, Dogs Down South. YouTube, go drop a like and a follow on YouTube, Dogs Down South. On X, Twitter. Also, if you do not get a chance, 24 hours after this goes up, we are on Apple Podcasts on your ride into work. You can go back and look at picks. We don't advise these picks to give to your bookies or to maybe go on to any of these sports betting sites.
Gamble at your own risk.
Exactly. Stick to the pros for that. But yeah, man. Hey, this was super fun. Fish, as always, man. Always great to hang. Dogs Down South. Rich, man, dude. Always great to have you join. Always great to add your commentary in there, man. So good. Yeah, man. Great show tonight. Enjoyed it. I hope that the fans and I hope everybody that popped in, feel free. Join every week. Make your picks. Hop in. Ask questions. We'll stop the show, man, and we'll answer questions before we stick to an agenda. We want to hear what everybody wants to talk about. Ask. We'll have storylines next week. We'll have actual real footage to talk about. Yeah, we'll actually get to talk about some real things. But, hey, man, on behalf of myself, Rich, man, Adam Fisher, and everybody at Dogs Down South, thanks for joining tonight. Can't wait for Georgia Clemson and just college football in general this weekend. But at the end of the day, you guys have a great night. Rest easy and go Dogs.
Go Dogs, baby.
All right.